Hi there, Ken and Danny here. This is a tutorial about taking off the self-extracting crankset off the bike. This is a FSA Gossamer model on our Cannondale with the BB30 spindle. But what's most interesting here for us is this part of the crankset. This is the self-extracting system. What it means, in the crankset without these self-extracting systems, we would need to use a special crankset puller. Apart from the arm, this tool is made of two parts. As you can see, I can just spin this one and we've got a threaded spindle here. In the self-extracting system, we can say that the retaining nut that is here on the outside is the equivalent of this one, and the crankset bolt that is here inside is the equivalent of this spindle. So we should never take the retaining nut off the crankset when we want to take this crankset off, because the crank bolt will press against the retaining nut so that we can take this or pull this arm off the spindle. So let's try to do it. We've got a 10mm Allen key. As you can see, I am doing it counterclockwise, and now I'm starting to feel that my bolt is pressing against the retaining nut, and I feel the arm is already loose. So the job of this bolt is done, and that's it. We've taken this off. So here you can see the crank bolt, and this is the retaining nut. We could also take the retaining nut off so that you would see how it works. We'll just take this off by using the spanner. Usually you can see some arrow directing you and saying tighten. So we are tightening to the left, and we will loosen it to the right. Just like this. It's already loose. So this is quite a smart system. We don't have a special tool. That's very easy. That's the bolt inside, and this is the retaining nut, and that's it. This is very light. If you're wondering, is it not just better to have this extra tool, this crankset puller, and have our crank lighter? Well, I have to tell you that this retaining nut weighs just a couple of grams, and we need the crank bolt anyway. And that's why I would say that those self-extracting cranksets are just smart, and they make our life easier. Now the only thing we have to do is to take off our wave washer, and there might be also some more spacers. Yeah, we've got one here. It is a plastic spacer, and then we are just pushing our spindle off the frame. Sometimes it sticks to the frame, then it would maybe need a little tap with our mallet. At this point here, the crankset can be stuck again. We may wanna do some tapping from the inside of the arm. And that's it, we've got our crankset off the bike. Now we can just clean it and then inspect the bottom bracket shell and our BB30 bearings. And now let's just install our crankset, BB30 Gossamer crankset, back onto our bike. I'm applying grease to the outer surface of both BB30 bearings. That will minimize the friction between the bearings and the spacers, and this protects the bearings against the water or some dust as well. Then I'm applying grease on the spindle, especially those places where the spindle is in contact with our bearings, and then of course the end of the spindle where the other crank arm will come in. I've inspected the bearings, they are just fine. We have two such cups for both sides. You just press them with your fingers, and then the crankset comes. Just remember about the chain. Sometimes you would want to tap it with a mullet, but this comes in just very nicely. Just make sure that the right crank arm comes in all the way, and then just two pieces. One is our wave washer and one is the spacer. The spacer comes first. This is a road specific setup, and then our wave washer. Because we removed the retaining nut, now we are supposed to install it back together. I'm quite surprised that originally there was no grease here, so I'm not going to apply any grease, but usually between the crank bolt and the retaining nut would be good to have some grease. We'll just tighten it according to the arrow. Alright, it's done. And then comes the crank arm and 10mm Allen key. Again, torque wrench would be ideal for this job. Alright, it seems to be just fine. Now we can install the chain back onto the crank. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.